This is advanced math, objective 6.1 homework. I'm going to start with worksheet 1. Hey! Yeah. Okay, 6.1. Okay, so I started with number 6. We are multiplying. So that would end up being 3x squared plus 7x. Okay, but I'm multiplying that with g of x. G is first. Okay, so it'd be x plus 1. Okay, so I could actually distribute, but that's not really what I want to do. I'd rather factor out a GCF because I know factoring is, essential here anyway. So if I divide both by x, I end up with 3x plus 7, and then we tend to like the x in the front. Okay, my domain is going to be all reals. This is actually a polynomial that looks like this. Okay, you might not remember that. Some of you might. Kind of talked about it a little bit in class. We'll review that in the next unit. Okay. Basically, the domain is going to be all reals if there's no square roots and no fractions with x in the denominator. Okay. 7. Okay, we're going to subtract. It's f minus g, so that's 3x squared plus 7x plus 2 minus the g of x. So I'm minusing the 1. And I'm minusing the 9x squared, okay? So that'd be 3x squared plus 7x plus 2 minus 1 plus 9x squared, okay? When I combine like terms, I get 12x squared plus 7x plus 1. That can be factored, and that would be 3x plus 1 times 4x plus 1. And I just did this in my 6th period class today, so I checked it when I was in class. It's a quadratic, so it's all reals. Okay, number 8, g of f of x. That means I'm inserting f into g. So that would be 2x squared plus 3x plus 2 minus 1. Subtract that, and I'd have 2x squared plus 3x plus 1. And you can factor that as 2x plus 1 times x plus 1. That, again, is all reals because that would be a quadratic function. Okay, here we go. I have f of x again. This time I'm inserting g into f. So that would be 3 times x plus 2 squared minus 3 times x plus 2. Rather than foiling, I'm going to factor out the 2x, or the x plus 2. So I divide that one by x plus 2, and I'd have 3 times x plus 2. And I divide that by x plus 2, and I get minus 3. Okay, so then that gives me x plus 2 times 3x plus 6 minus 3. And when I subtract, I get x squared, x plus 2 times 3x plus 3. But you can actually factor that 3 out. So on my other answer key, you'll see it say x plus 2 times x plus 1. So I divided that by 3 and put it on the outside. Again, it's a quadratic. Okay. Very, very good. Okay. 10, I said I should have put this one in the homework, and I didn't, at least not in 2019. So maybe in future years I will. Okay, so here, I'm looking for two functions, an outer and an inner. Absolute value is a grouping symbol, so I can see that this is my inside function, which would be my g of x, because this is what I want inside to be. Okay, so that would be 3x squared minus 1. That's a quadratic, so that's all reals. Here I have absolute value. When I take that out, it's an x in that placeholder. Okay, and then the overall still would have been all reals because there's no square roots or denominators getting in my way. Okay, this one I did do in my 6th period class. Okay, these are my grouping symbols. This is my inside function. It's recognizable that it is a linear function, so my domain is all reals. Okay. So then my outer function, I'm replacing x with this, so it'd be 3x squared. That's a parabola. So I can see now, oh, that is a parabola, just with some funky stuff in there. So I know that that domain was still all reals. Okay. All right, backside, we started getting into that difference quotient. Oh, but first our average rate of change. I think I assigned number 12. Is that right? Yep, number 12. Okay, so here I'm going to plug in the 0 and the 2. So this is my x1 and my x2, and I want y2 and y1. So if I do f of x1, that'll give me y1. So that would be negative 3 times 0. 0 plus 1 squared minus 2. 0 plus 1 is 1. 1 squared is 1. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. Minus 1 is negative 4. Okay, and then if I plug in the x2, which is 2, I'll get y2. So that'd be negative 3 times 2 plus 1 squared minus 2. That would be 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 squared is 9. Negative, 3, it's actually negative 3 times 9 is negative 27, minus 2 is negative 29. And so when I do my rate of change, that would be negative 29 minus negative 4 over 2 minus 0. Negative, that's adding, so that'd be negative 25 over 2. Final answer. Okay, let's skip ahead to number 15. Number 15, I did this one in my class as well, I believe. This means I'm plugging this into this placeholder here, so that would be negative 3 times h plus 2 plus 5, and now I'm plugging in a 2, so same thing. It'd be negative 3 times 2 plus 5. Okay, but I need to remember that I'm subtracting all of that. I'm going to distribute, that's negative 3h minus 6 plus 5. I'm going to multiply that, that's negative 6 plus 5. When I distribute, I'm going to have a negative 3h minus 6 plus 5 plus 6 and a minus 5. I know I'm doing things right if a lot of stuff cancels out. So remember, this was all over h. So when I cancel those out, I end up with just negative 3. H cannot equal 0. Okay, let's look at number 16. Very, very similar. 2 times h plus 1 squared minus 3 times h plus 1 minus 2 times 1 squared minus 3 times 1. Okay, and so then that would be 2 times, I'm going to FOIL this quickly in my head. I've got my patterns down, so I already know what that is in my head. We just haven't practiced factoring a lot lately, and so you guys might not have that, but we're going to start practicing so you guys can get that down. So this will be 1 squared is 1, times 2 is 2, 3 times 1 is 3. Distribute my negative there, distribute my 2 here. So I'm going to have 2h squared plus 4h plus 2 minus 3h minus 3 minus 2 plus 3. Those will cancel. Those will cancel. Excellent. These I can combine, and I'll have 2h squared plus h. Okay. I can't just cancel out those h's. I need to factor first. So factor that out, and I'll end up with 2h plus 1, where h does not equal 0. Okay. All right, I'm going to do one last one, number 18. Okay, I'm plugging in x plus h into this one now. 2x plus h squared minus 3 times x plus h minus, and then it was 2x squared minus 3x. Okay, I know when I FOIL that out, I'm going to get x squared plus 2xh plus h squared minus 3x minus 3h, and I'm just distributing. Okay, 2x squared plus 4xh plus 2h okay, I'm going to cancel, 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 cancel. I think I can combine those, but why do I have a minus? I had a negative 3, so this should still be a negative here. negative 3h, okay? So I'm going to have 4xh, and when I combine those, I have a plus h. But again, I need to, oh, that was h squared, huh? My bad, so that's a 2h squared, and then a minus 3h. Okay, so did I make that? Nope, that was a number before. Okay, so now I can't combine like terms. I have to just factor out my h, so that'd be 4x plus 2h minus 3 all over h, and so I'm left with 4x plus 2h minus 3, and h does not equal 0. Hopefully I didn't make any mistakes. Please let me know if I did. All right, the next part was bookwork. I assigned a lot, but as I showed you, this you can do super duper fast. In fact, I think we did them all in class today. I doubt any of you had any to take home. So we started with page 24. And actually, we did this before the worksheet, so I just don't want to have 2 short videos. So anyway, I assigned number 11. And so number 11 here says tell whether it's a function or not. And so here I have no duplicate x values. I do not have duplicate y values either, but it doesn't matter. As long as there's no duplicate x values, then we know it is a function. Okay, so let me grab my paper here. Okay, here we go. This is AM 6.1 bookwork, and I'm starting off with number 11 on page 24. Okay, so for number 11, I had x and y, negative 3, negative 9, negative 1, negative 1. It was 0, 0, 1, 1, 3, 9, and this one is a function. And that's because no x values repeat. Okay. Okay, then I think we skipped ahead to number, I think we did 17 to 28. Okay, so let's see here, 17. There we go. Okay, we learned in class that equations do not represent functions if there is a y squared, and so 17 and 18 are not functions because they have y squares, okay? So 17 x squared plus y squared equals 4. This is actually a circle, okay? And that would be y. So when you have a y squared, you end up with those duplicate values, okay? And so that would fail the vertical line test, okay? So not a function. Sorry, I didn't really finish what I was doing. You could just say y squared, or you could say it's a circle. Okay, either way. Okay, number 18 said x equals y squared plus 1. Okay, this is actually one of those sideways parabolas. Okay, that's not a function. Again, you can just say because it has a y squared. Okay. Number 19 has y equals in this crazy thing. Again, it does not have a y squared. We do not manipulate equations because when we manipulate, things happen. So that one is a function. Okay, let's see if I can just a little bit. Sorry guys. Just trying to have it so that I'll just put my paper down and then put my book in my lap. Okay. So I'm going to have y equals x squared minus 1. This is a function, no y squared. Okay, and this is actually going to give you a crazy radical thing. So we learned in class that when it was just an x, it would do this. When it's an x squared, you actually end up getting another one like this if you were to look in Desmos or something like that. Okay, but that's not something I'm expecting you to know. All I need you to know is it is a function. Okay, 20 says y equals square root of x plus 5. That's a radical like this. Okay, so that one is a function. Okay, no y squared. Okay, 21 says 2x plus 3y equals 4. This is a linear, which looks like that. So this one is a function. Again, there's no y squared. Okay. 22. You're going to have x equals negative y plus 5. It's okay to have a negative on the y. It's still a linear. It's just going to be a downward facing linear. Okay, so it'd be something like this. Again, you don't need to know that for right now. As long as you know that it's not a y squared, you can say it is a function. Okay, 23 says y squared equals x squared minus 1. This is actually going to be a hyperbola. If you did Desmos, you would see that the graph is going to do something like that. But again, we haven't gotten to that yet. All you need to know is it has a y squared, and that means that it's not going to be a function. Okay, good, y squared. Okay, 24. 24 says x plus y squared equals 3. That's a sideways parabola, not a function. Again, it's because there's a y squared. 25. 25 says y equals 4 minus absolute value of x. That's an absolute value v. That one is a function. Okay. This next one, number 26, though, I put this on here to make you think. We talked about it in class, that if the y has the absolute value, then that means that your v is going this direction. It no longer passes the vertical line test. This is very similar to a y squared, because if you plug in a number for y, like let's say I plugged in a 2 here, then that would mean that I would have 2 is equal to 4 minus x, and then I would subtract the 4, and I would get a negative 2 equals negative x, or an x equals 2. But the same thing would happen if I plugged in a negative 2, because if I plug in the negative 2 for the y, then absolute value negative 2 is the 2. I end up getting the exact same x value, even though I have 2 different y values. Okay, so anyway, this won't be on a test or anything. I just wanted you to think about it. This is not a function. Okay, number 27 is a test question. So is number 17. Okay, number 17 says x equals negative 7. That's a vertical line. It does not pass the vertical line test, so it is not a function. Okay, number 28 says y equals 8. This is a horizontal line. It will pass the vertical line test. This one is a function. Okay, so something you might want to remember. Okay, so things that are not functions. Okay, not a function if repeat x values have different y values. Okay, things that will cause repeat x values but with different y values would be y squared, absolute value of y, okay, or no y. Okay, so equations with these conditions are not a function. Okay. All right, I also signed 37, not a lot from 37, but I did assign some from 37. Okay, and so on page 37, okay, we had these functions here. So I'm going to kind of just redraw them, okay? So this is, again, it's AM 6.1 bookwork. This is page 37. I think I assigned numbers 19 to 22, I think. Okay, so for number 19, it wants to know, is it a function? It gives you an equation and the picture. So by vertical line test, we know it's not a function, but we also know it's not a function because there's no y squared. I mean, it is a function because there's no y squared. Sorry. I'm looking at the clock. It's 3:35. I want to go home. Just like you guys. Okay, so number 20, I have x minus y squared equals 1. There's a sideways parabola like this. This is not a function. It fails the vertical line test. And it has a y squared. Okay. Number 21 has x squared plus y squared equals 25. It has a picture of a circle. That's not a function. It has a y squared and it's a circle, which means it does not pass the vertical line test. Okay. And then last but not least, number 22 says x squared equals 2xy minus 1. We will graph things like this, but it won't look like this. We'll have it written in a different format. So I'll show you that later. Anyway, so the graph of this looks like, okay, this one is a function because this is actually approaching an asymptote. It's kind of hard to tell, especially with my wacky drawing. Also, it does not have a y squared, so this is a function. Okay, so I kind of drew this a little too wacky. It should look like that. And then it should go very subtle like that. Okay, I just got a little excited about my weekend just about to begin. First weekend of the semester. Okay. Yay. Okay. That's it. That's all I wrote. Bam.